Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome. Welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on great AM and FM stations across our great state of Michigan. And so glad to have you along with us, as I always am. Look, there are a lot of things in your world you could be doing. There's a lot of different content you could be viewing, listening to. There's no end to content and media these days. You know, it's so different than it was early on, when we had like 3 TV stations. My TV show, the Outdoor Magazine television show, what were the numbers it drew? It was stupid. This is when I was on TV5 in Saginaw, and it was after the Sunday night 6 o'clock news leading into 60 Minutes. Was there ever a better time slot for a TV show? And it was something like, and don't hold me to this, but it was a stupid number, something like 80% of the TV shows in that 80% of the TVs in that market at that time were tuned into my television show. That's unheard of these days. That is a number that'll never be reached again because there are so many different things vying for your attention. So going back to my original point of the fact that you're hearing my voice right now, whether it's the broadcast version or the podcast, thank you so very much. I do certainly appreciate it. So the question right now, I'm going to ask midweek from mid-Michigan, and by the time you hear it this weekend, wherever you are in our state, you might say, what is he talking about? So the question is wintertime dead? Is it? Well, I was kind of thinking maybe it was, at least move in that direction. Then it got cold again, then we got some snow last night. I don't know. I don't think she's dead yet, but I think the fat lady is over there singing somewhere. I can almost hear her. And why do I hear her? Because the skunks are out. Seeing skunks all over the place. Dead skunk in the road is one of the first signs of spring. I know. And you're going to say, oh, that has nothing to do with it. The skunks are out right now because it's their mating season. I don't care why they're out. The fact that we're seeing them dead in the road, to me, is the first sign that springtime is around the corner. I have not seen any sandhills yet, although I hear reports of them in the southern part of the state. Certainly no red-winged blackbirds for me yet, although I am hearing reports in the southern part of the state. And if you are one of my friends listening in the UP, you're thinking, Avery, you are absolutely crazy. It's going to be weeks and weeks and weeks before we hear those things. So you can live vicariously through me and the folks who live south of me. Listen, ice fishing season isn't over yet, but I didn't make it out. I didn't make it out ice fishing this year, and you know what? I'm okay with that. I know a lot of people love ice fishing. You live for ice fishing. I respect that. I think that's wonderful, but it's just not my main thing. I am getting excited about springtime coming up. I will admit to having spring fever for weeks now. Looking forward to turkey season. I will get ZZ, the Southern Michigan Private Land Tag that runs basically for 6 months. Wouldn't that be something? 6 weeks. It starts, the third Saturday in April and runs through the end of May? If you can swing that tag, if you have hunting access to hunting areas in that part of the state, I would really recommend that. When I first started turkey hunting, it was a draw, and you didn't always get the hunt that you wanted, and it was like a week long. Man, you got to, if you're intent on getting a bird, which I was early on in my turkey hunting career, that was my goal, get a bird. And your season was 7 days, 8 days, 9 days, and you're having some close encounters or maybe a miss or two if you're bow hunting. I would hunt every day every day for like a week straight, 7 days straight, 8 days straight. And it was kind of a grind, but I didn't have 6 weeks to get it done. I couldn't pick my days. I had to be out there regardless of the weather, regardless of what my schedule was, regardless if I was tired. These days, though, I have learned that though it's wonderful to be out there first thing in the morning as the sun's coming up and watch the world wake up and hear the birds on the roost, because that gives you a tremendous feeling of confidence that there are birds in the area. Now, they might not fly down and come towards you, but you know there are birds in the area. So, that part I like, but don't overlook a mid-morning to a midday hunt. As I look back on the number of birds I have killed midday, probably more than first thing in the morning. So I'm looking forward to turkey season. I'm looking forward to open water trolling season. Here's something I'm not looking forward to, though. It's time for me to replace all my trolling rods and reels on the Angler Quest. And to be honest with you, I'm not looking forward to the expense. Maybe I should have been doing this piecemeal along the years, 3 or 4 rods, 3 or 4 reels. And I guess to some degree I've been doing that, but now it's just time. I want them all. I want them to be consistent. I want them to match. I want them to make it easy for me and the folks on the boat. Everything's the same. So I'm going to get probably a dozen new rods, 10 new reels at least. I'm going to get the Romanek version of the Eagle Claw Starfire board rod, 8 feet 6 inches. Those I'm not too worried about because they're fairly inexpensive rod. At one time, I was considering getting the 7-footers because, it's just easier to deal with at the back of the boat. But I got the Angler Quest that has all kinds of room back there. And several of my buddies I respect said, no, go with the 8.6. It'll give you more forgiveness at the boat with a fish on. The reels are the ones that I am hung up on because these Okuma trolling reels that everybody is recommending to me, and I'm a fan of Okuma. Most of my reels are currently Okuma reels. These are like $140. I'm going to buy 10 of them, 12 of them. And I have a hard time justifying spending much money on walleye reels that are never going to be used on salmon. If they were salmon reels, I'd say absolutely. I'm going to need the capacity. I'm going to need the drag. The only time I need a drag on Saginaw Bay is if I hook into a big sheephead or a catfish, or maybe a pike. And even then, it's not much. So I don't know. But you know what? I was thinking, when did you replace everything last time? And it was completely Okuma. It was Okuma rods and reels. And it was about 25 years ago. And I still have a couple of those original rods and reels. 25 years ago. So I guess I got my money's worth out of those. Maybe I shouldn't gripe about, paying a few bucks to re-up them. And here's another fun thought. If it was 25 years since I replaced them last time, this is probably the last time I'm going to replace them. Charlie's laughing at me. It's a little fun thought just to brighten my day. Next Saturday, March 7th, the Big Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner and Auction. Doors open at 4:30, dinner at 6. The Great Hall in Midland. Lots of great auction items. Live auctions, silent auctions, bucket raffles, bucket drops, bourbon pull, wine pull. Lots of guns were given away. Live auction items are outstanding. Great meal, 50-50. This is a fundraiser. It's a blatant fundraiser. We're raising money for our church and school, Trinity Monitor. My church. I don't own it, but I am a member there. At this point, if you want tickets, send me an email, and I will help you make that happen. My email address is mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. The Lumberjack, our next Wednesday night live at the Lumberjack in West Branch will be Wednesday, April 15th. Reservations open on the 1st, which is Sunday. 989-343-0892, 989-343-0892. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine show after the break, Keil Green of the Greenway Outdoors TV show, talking about a subject I never thought we would address here again on the show. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's the concept of a dove hunt here in Michigan. Keil's got something in the works. If anybody can make it happen, he's a guy who can. And then Keil Jorgenson of Woods-n-Waternews wraps up that first hour. In the second hour, we're talking springtime walleye fishing on the Detroit River. Some guys and gals are already out there. But we're not talking about jigging. We're not talking about hand lining. We're talking about trolling with Roy Miller. Then what I think is going to be a very interesting conversation with Steve Dye. Steve is the new president of the board of directors of MUCC. He took office officially last weekend at their convention. I will talk with Steve about the future of that organization. Then in our third hour, Richard P. Smith, outdoor writer, bear hunting expert, deer hunting expert. We'll talk about wintertime in the UP. What is it doing to the UP whitetail herd? We'll talk, I'm sure, about baiting, because Richard thinks baiting should come back in the lower. And whatever else is on his mind. And there's never a shortage of topics when I'm talking with when I'm talking with Richard P. Smith. And then we go into wild game chef Dixie Dave Minar. He wants to do a trout recipe this week. I have to check and see if I have video of that. If so, it'll be a trout recipe, and there will be video of. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine Radio. There's a podcast version of this show as well. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Don't hesitate to reach out. Send me your pictures, your videos, your questions, your comments. Love to hear from you. Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK, that's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Carroll, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. And as long as we're talking about stations where we have an AM and FM side, let's go to Sheboygan, WCBY, Big Country Gold, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Angler Quest headquarters. You know I love that. Talking with the folks at Linwood Beach, they say the ice out there on the bay, and this is midweek, okay? So don't take this as the gospel. Just take it as a frame of reference. The ice midweek, as we're recording the show, is still pretty good. In fact, real good if you know how to get out there. But the ice near shore, the ice in the marina, that's the stuff that's kind of squirrely. So if you're out there every day, you know what you're doing, disregard what I'm saying. If you're coming in from outside the area, I suggest you do one of the follow-along, the ride-alongs with one of the guides who are going out there. Either way, use your wits about you. Get the most out of this fishing season and have fun. The website for Linwood Beach is linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. My first guest this week is a guy that I absolutely enjoy talking with. He's a young guy in the outdoor industry, but he is taking this industry by storm. His name is Keil Green of the Greenway Outdoors, thegreenwayoutdoors.com, the Greenway Outdoors TV show, seen on History Channel. Now think about this. For many years, guys like me were, just killing ourselves trying to keep a show on the Outdoor Channel or trying to keep a show on Sportsman Channel. Keil said, no, that's not the way to go. If you want to reach people, go to a network like a History Channel. And that's what he's done. He's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to talk about that and much, much more. Keil, welcome back.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for having me.
Well, listen, it's always a pleasure. Every time I talk with you, I learn something. I get some additional insight, and mostly, first and foremost, I am encouraged when I see young people in this industry so dedicated and making a difference. So good for you, Keil.
Thank you, Mike. And it's just me giving it back to you because I learned from you for so many years. So I'm just trying to return the favor at least a little bit. I got about, I'd say probably 15 more years to go before I catch up to what you've done for me.
Well, it's nice of you to say, but you're way ahead of what I have done. We'll probably talk about several things this week, but the first topic I want to discuss with you is something that I never thought would be a topic of discussion again on this radio show, because I was convinced it was absolutely dead and would never come back. And maybe it won't, but the fact it's being talked about is interesting, and that's the concept of a Michigan dove hunt.
Yeah, it is being talked about right now. And matter of fact, the House has been talking about it. I've been talking with state representatives all week long about a bill that would reinstate dove hunting in our state. And the problem with it right now and where it sits right now is, of course, first, let me be a little bit more excited. I'm talking, my whole life I haven't been able to hunt doves in Michigan. How exciting would it be for us to get to go out and harvest the number one harvested game species on the planet? And I use the words game species on purpose. When I go buy a box of Boss Unleaded, it is an upland and dove load, and there's a dove on the front of the box. Why? They're not putting cardinals on there. They're not putting blue jays or bald eagles on there. They're putting birds that you hunt to eat. I've gone to Ohio, and I had the opportunity to hunt doves in Africa. I've got to hunt doves in a multitude of states. They taste good. They're fun. It's an awesome experience, and it's kind of like, I'm so jealous of other states, Mike. They get to kick off hunting season by going out with all their buddies, circling up on a sunflower field and harvesting a game bird that tastes that good, and they shoot them by the pile. And we've got plenty of them here in Michigan, so I can't imagine in any good conscience why we wouldn't have that season in the first place. So I wanted to start there.
Thank you for that, and I have an idea why we're not hunting doves, but I want to hear what you think.
So in 2006, there was a public vote put up to whether or not doves should be classified as a game species, or whether it was a songbird, whether we should be allowed to hunt it, whether we should not be allowed to hunt it. And I will tell you what, there's organizations out there like Hunter Nation and other organizations that try and get hunters to the ballot box every single year, because overall, and it's not in the circles I run in, but hunters don't vote like at all. So when this was put to a vote, it was either 21 or 23% was the passing rate on it. So it got slammed closed. The public said no because the people who voted said no, and the hunters weren't represented in the vote because they didn't go out and vote, and that's our own fault. And that was in 2006, and that is why we don't have a dove season. Now, what's interesting about that is if you go back to the early 90s and you look at the NRC. Now, for those of you who don't know, just a quick overview, the NRC, they're the guys that are supposed to be setting hunting and fishing licenses, establishing bag limits and methods of take. They regulate the harvest of game species, and they're supposed to base all of their decisions based on hard, concrete, sound science. Now, the whole point of that was to rip out emotion-based regulations. Back then, the big reason they brought them in was because they were talking about wolf hunts and different things like that the public may not like, but the environmental science proves there's a harvestable surplus that needs to be harvested, and it's sportsmen and women who owe it to the species and to the regulation of our ecosystem to do so. So the NRC is supposed to have that power. That was established in the 90s. But for some reason, in 2006, we had a vote of whether or not we felt emotionally good about hunters being able to harvest doves. And, of course, it got slammed down, as I said. But for some reason, that vote took place, and it doesn't make any sense. And what's being talked about now is kind of two paths that could be taken. Path one, and this is the one I'm pushing for, is that vote should have never taken place because this goes against what the NRC is supposed to do. Now, overall, the NRC doesn't establish that an animal is a game species or not. So that's the technicality that the people that are against dove hunting are playing with right now. But at the same time I think we'd be lying to ourselves if we didn't look at every other state and country across the world. This is the number one harvested game species in the world. This isn't like a javelina or something like that where a couple people hunt it. We're talking about the number one harvested game bird in the world. So if you are going to look me in the eyes and say, well, the NRC doesn't have the authority to say it's a game species, I'm saying God has the authority because it's already taken place in every other country where they shoot them and eat them. In every other state, I mean, there's 40-something states that have a season right now, and we've got better numbers than they do. It's so the law doesn't make any sense. So what I'm fighting for is, obviously that's path one, is to say that this vote should have never taken place because it doesn't go with the guidelines that the NRC is supposed to set based on sound science. Because no one could argue the science. Even across the world and across our country, dove numbers are either increasing or remaining level. So there's no science that anyone could make that harvesting doves in Michigan, this year's surplus to make room for next year's babies, no one could argue that that is factually sound, that it should happen. And then the other path is, so the House pretty much agrees with you and I that there should be a dove season. It would have to go to the Senate next. If it goes to the Senate, they would have to vote, and this is kind of where they're coming from. They're like, the public voted on something like almost 80%. We never get the public to vote on something like almost 80%. Why would we overturn that? Like, and if they don't know anything about dove hunting and they don't know anything about what I said, that's kind of like a logical standpoint. So my goal is to go in, present to the Senate and the Michigan Senate, and explain to them, hey, this is actually what's happening. This is actually what's taking place. This is the number one harvested game bird in the world. It was put to a vote that was based on emotion, but in the end, we shouldn't be voting on game species with emotion. And I've got to ask every sportsman and women person out there. I'm going to be having a call to action soon. I'm sure Mike will share it about who you can reach out to help me get this pushed. But let me ask you something. If they can put dove hunting up to a public vote, what happens if they put deer? What happens if they put bear? Are you so sure that we're going to get 51% on bear hunting if it's put to a public vote? This dove hunt sets a precedence we can't allow. It has to be taken back. We cannot allow the regulation of game species to be done through emotion. Otherwise, you can kiss our sport goodbye because we already don't have enough people in it as it is, which is what me and Mike fight every day.
This is all completely, it's common sense. Why is Keil Green, why are you, Keil Green, a guy who is an outdoor communicator, why are you put in this position? Why isn't MUCC or Ducks Unlimited, or I don't care who it is, why has this not come up before?
Yeah, I don't know if you want that answer. I'll give the politically correct one for once in my life, and it is relatively true. I talked to two different state representatives about this bill, and one of them who you and I would think is the most greatest guy ever and would vote right down the line how every sportsman and woman would want you to vote. I mean, just a wonderful human being. And when I brought up the technicality on the NRC thing, he's like, huh. And when I talked to State Representative Coons before, he said, you know what, Keil, here's what happens. Everyone tries to bring bills in. You go to work every day. You get 8 bills dumped on your desk. There's about enough reading for each bill that should take about a week. You've got about 2 hours, then you got to vote on it. You got about 8 of those a day. So nobody gets their head up to really think about like these sorts of things just because our system is so bogged down with nonsense. And I think that is probably why on the state representative side, but also like, I don't know. It's like, I thought if I post a video and I get 1 million views on it, I think I'm making a difference. But am I? Because I'm talking to these people and it's like I'm the first person to ever say it. This should have been argued since 2006. So I think what has to happen is a true call to action. And Mike, I'm going to share it with you. Once I wrangle up exactly who I want everyone to email, I will provide you with that email address, and we will fill their inbox so that they know that Michigan sportsmen and women demand a dove hunting season.
And you want to do this, I'm going to have to take a break here in a second, so I'm going to set this up. Maybe we'll answer it after the break. You want to do this through the legislature?
Right now, that's the simplest path. I'm going to take the technicality path to start that, hey, this should have never been voted on in the first place. I'm going to try that. But if not, we're going to have to make it a 3 out of 5 vote in the Senate. We're going to need at least 3/5 of the vote.
All right. We'll take a break. I will just say, I understand what you're doing. I respect what you're doing, but I've been on a rant the last couple of weeks about I don't think the state legislature should be involved in our fish and game laws. I think it should come from the NRC. Stew that over, mull that over. We'll talk about it more after the break. We're talking with Keil Green of the Greenway Outdoors, the website, thegreenwayoutdoors.com, thegreenwayoutdoors.com. Why are we not hunting doves in Michigan? You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 2 stations, both of them FM stations. The Twister 92.1 WTWS and 98.5 WUPS. Just 2 of our many Outdoor Magazine radio affiliates. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Why buy a bunch of different expensive sets of hunting clothes? You can buy one good quality set. Snap on, zip on an outer shell of a different camo pattern in less than a minute. If you need big sizes, 4, 5, 6X, VersaSkins is for you. Check out the website, versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. Or go to amazon.com and do a search for VersaSkins brand. Just change your skin for the season you are in. Talking right now with Keil Green at the Greenway Outdoors TV show and Greenway Outdoors in general, the greenwayoutdoors.com. Keil, I don't want to get too far into the weeds because we could take this into a level that nobody would even want to listen to us talk about it. But is this really something we want the legislature involved in, or do we have no choice?
Yeah, no, so I actually wholeheartedly agree with you in the fact that I would like them not involved. Here's what I'm struggling with, and it is a little bit in the weeds, but here's what I'm struggling with, Mike. We have situations like I tend to be somebody that when I look at the data, I think we need to allow deer baiting in our state. Some people disagree with me. I'm sure that splits the audience right down the middle, 50-50, but just hear me out. I think that the science of the fact that we have so many deer that weren't harvested this year because hunter participation and harvest rate has just plummeted over the last few years. We're talking 10 to 15% increases or decreases rather in harvest rate throughout the state. So to me, that science says, hey, we should be baiting so that people are harvesting more deer because we need to harvest more deer because the numbers are, skyrocketing. Diseases is going to start spreading through that. And if you allow a guy to put some carrots out for 1 or 2 weeks a season, I don't think you're going to make a big difference on increasing, or changing how deer move. However, you're going to increase the harvest quite a bit. So to me, I think that that's what makes the most sense. The NRC, didn't. So then you have the legislation come through, and the same state representative that I talked to is the one who championed pushing to make it so that the bait ban was lifted. So then that's done. So it's like, okay, so I don't agree with the NRC and everything, even though what they're supposed to do is based on sound science. It's like to give someone the keys to the kingdom to be in charge of everything for us and just assume that they're going to represent the sportsmen and women perfectly. Well, they can't do that job because nobody can do that job perfectly. So without the legislation, we don't have the checks and we don't have a way to fight back if the NRC determines something. Now you have a king, you know what I'm saying? And the NRC is the king then. They get to make. So that scares the hell out of me. However, 99% of the time, I'm going to agree with you that I don't want the government involved in those situations. But in that one, I do. Yeah. And that's me picking what I want. And that's not fair either. But then you look at, okay, so now I'm going to this, the state representative and talking about presenting to the Senate and trying to get this overturned. When it comes to the doves specifically, what scares me there is you have a situation where it was voted on through these politicians. It got pushed onto a ballot. It got voted on in 2006. And now they're saying, and the NRC is saying, the only way to overturn that is to go deal with that devil and get it overturned in that devilish atmosphere, which is the political side, the people that you think should stay out of it. And boy, do I agree with you. I think they should stay out of it, but I also think the NRC should do a better job. And I think the NRC has to report to sportsmen and women in some way better than MUCC cooking the numbers and deciding what everything should be. That's what I think. I think that the NRC, without the help of MUCC, without the help of any other nonprofit, should have to report to the sportsmen to what and real science. And I think there has to be some sort of checks and balances put in place with NRC, and then I say we kick the politicians out. But when it comes to dove, I'm only going to live 80 years, so I don't know that I'll see that. So I need to right now focus my energy on what is the path that gets the dove hunting reinstated and then kick the government out of it as far as I possibly can.
I see what you're saying.
So
I see what you're saying. It is complicated, and I do see what you're saying. I see the path that you're taking. That makes complete sense. I will tell you, if the NRC is the king, I feel like sometimes we have to overthrow the king, because I don't think the NRC, the Natural Resources Commission, has been a friend of hunters and anglers and shooters and trappers in Michigan for the last several years. I think they let us down on the the baiting issue, certainly. I think they've let us down on the year-round coyote hunting issue. Last summer, they were supposed to have a meeting in Bay City, and not enough of them even showed up to have a quorum. How disinterested are they when that happens? It's like, yeah, the system is, and they're appointed by the governor. So I don't know. Kyle. I don't know.
Yeah, when you say the words, I represent science, and then close the coyote season for their breeding season, you have told me you know nothing, and you have relinquished any control you have over us. So then how do we, it's at that point, you're too dumb to make decisions.
Kyle, I wish you luck. Honestly, this might be the biggest battle you have faced yet in your young life. I appreciate what you're doing. I will help in any way. I'll get the word out. Let me know when it's time to do a call for action. Good luck on this. Let's stay in touch. Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors, thegreenwayoutdoors.com, greenwayoutdoors.com. Check this guy out. Check out his podcast. Check out the social media post. Check out the TV show on the on History Channel. This guy is a force in the outdoor industry, and he's a Michigan guy through and through. We'll take a break. When we come back, Keil Jorgenson of Woods-n-Waternews right here on Outdoor Magazine. Charlie, I forgot to print out that affiliate list again. I'll do it at the top of the hour. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine radio show on a bunch of great radio stations across our state. I'll get back to that list here after I remember to, I didn't remember to print it out, but I can send it to Charlie and he can print it out. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Killer Food Plots, Michigan-based, family-owned. Need I say more? You know that I love to support with and partner with and work with Michigan-based family-owned companies. Killer Food Plots is one of them. Rich and Ellie Krazan own Killer Food Plots, and they do a great job. Now, I realize you're not hunting over food plots right now, and you're not quite starting to put in food plots yet, but that time is not that far away. In fact, frost seeding in some parts of our state is not far away at all. So, and I think I've got Rich coming on the show here in the next couple of weeks to talk about that. But this is a good time of year to reevaluate your food plots. What did you do right? What did you do wrong? What do you want to change? That's where we are on our lease property, going through that same process, and Rich is going to work with us on that. If you're looking for help, whether it's management or consulting or just seed, check out Killer Food Plots, the website killerfoodplots.com. It's killerfoodplots.com. Speaking of Michigan-based family-owned organizations, operations, companies, you might not know this, but Woods-n-Waternews, that's been around forever, obviously Michigan-based, but family-owned. Keil Jorgenson is one of the players in Woods-n-Waternews these days, and he's with us on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Keil, welcome. How are you?
Doing great, Mike. Thanks a lot. Glad to be on again with you.
Hey, listen, it's always a pleasure. So give me a little bit of a background of Woods-n-Water. What is it, 40 years now? No, what is it?
Well, it's 42 years old. The magazine is, and then this September 11th through 13th is our 40th anniversary of our outdoor weekend.
Wow.
So it's been a while.
Did you know as a kid coming up that you were going to end up working in the family business?
No, I did not. I hoped it, when I got a little older and more involved and went through college. It was always a passion of mine. It's something I wanted to pursue and do and carry on that legacy that my dad, Randy, and my Uncle Tom, developed. And yeah, so as I got older, it's something I really wanted to do.
And I know that they really cherish and appreciate this younger perspective and the enthusiasm and the different outlook that you as a younger guy bring into this. I mean, and that's how things continue, right? We got to bring in fresh blood, new blood, and you're the fresh blood.
Oh, yeah. Almost 43 years old, I'm the fresh blood. No, I mean, you always, in this industry, you got to evolve.
Yeah.
Like we've talked before, everything changes so fast every couple of years. you got to recycle of things, and evolution of this business is a necessity.
We had the Ultimate Fishing Show Novi last weekend was Outdoorama. Grand Rapids is coming up. You guys always have a presence at those shows. I know that's a lot of time, a lot of resources, a lot of expense as well. Why do you do that?
I think it's face-to-face, seeing our customers, being in Emily City. You don't always get that other than our show and then the shows we go to. Yeah, as you said, Ultimate Sports Show, the DeVos, the 12th and 15th of March. Getting in front of your customers, getting in front of your loyal readers. We got to do that. We love talking to them, hearing their input, feedback, the pros and cons of both sides of it, and that's really the main thing, Mike.
And you at Woods and Waters have done a very good job of kind of walking this razor's edge of some of the real hot outdoor political items or topics in the state. You really don't take a stand one way or another. You do try to present both sides, don't you?
Yeah, we have to. I mean, yeah, like you said, there's a fine line, and we got to find that balance of what our beliefs are, what the state's beliefs are. But yeah, we got to present both sides.
Have you ever, or has anybody ever done an editorial page? Has that ever been part of the publication?
Yes, absolutely. We get submissions all the time of topics and people's beliefs and thoughts, and we got to be very careful, and we just can't run to run. Can't have something completely outlandish or not appropriate. So we go through a lot of those things very carefully, and we will submit that stuff.
And along that line, I know you've got a very strong stable of well-respected, well-known outdoor writers here in Michigan. If somebody had a really cool outdoor experience or they've got a really innovative way of hunting or fishing, can they submit an article to you guys? Is there a chance in the world it'll end up in print?
Yes, we encourage that. Every month we have one like that. So all I got to do is email WNW@pageone-inc.com, and we will get something in. Again, we edit it and make sure it's appropriate for the magazine that month and topics. But yes, we will absolutely do that.
And how do we get Woods-n-Waternews? Where do we find it?
You can find it at your local newsstand all across the state. You can go to www.woods-n-waternews.com, get it online, check out our Facebook page. We're right at your fingertips, digitally and in person.
All right, Keil, keep up the good work. You and I will talk again soon. If I don't talk to you before Grand Rapids, have a good show there. And again, Woods and Water News, woods-n-waternews.com, woods-n-waternews.com. Thank you, Keil. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Mike. Always appreciate you.
You bet. Now, Charlie, think about this. This first hour of the show here, I actually had two young guys on. Now, Keil's laughing because he said at 43 he's not a young guy, but actually he is. See, I'm trying to get fresh blood, young blood into this show. The future of the outdoors doesn't belong to guys like me. It belongs to guys like my kids and more over grandkids. We got to work to keep this going. It's not gonna happen on its own these days. Hour 2 coming up after the break.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is Mike Avery, the big guy. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome. Welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. Now, you might say, Avery, you said hour 2. Well, how many hours are there of each week's radio show? Well, thank you for asking. There are 3 hours to each week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. Most of our broadcast affiliates are able to carry all 3 hours, but not all of them are. But, I appreciate my affiliates, no matter how much time they can give me on the weekends. Broadcast time is extremely valid. There are only so many hours in a day. There's only so many hours in a broadcast schedule. So for a station to give me 2 or probably 3 hours a week is a big deal. And I appreciate that so very much. And I think the best way to listen to the show, if you can, is on your local radio station, your local AM or FM station. If you can't, if you live in some part of our state, and I'll call it the southern part of the state now, that you can't hear the Outdoor Magazine radio show, or if you live up north and the station doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show and there's something in hour 3 you want to hear, isn't it nice to know that there's a podcast version of the show that is available? The podcast is exactly the same content as the broadcast. It's just made available somewhere else. You hear the radio show on your local radio station. You hear the podcast elsewhere, anywhere other than your local radio station, including my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, my Facebook page, Amazon Music, Audible, the whole gamut of things, even on YouTube. I don't put a video version on YouTube. We do put up video of the first segment of the show, but the entire 3-hour show is available only via audio on YouTube. I do like podcasting. Each month, I do podcasts for some of my broadcast partners, including Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Pontoons, and Killer Food Plots. Although today, when we're done, there is no podcast scheduled. This is a light day for me, Charlie. Look at right? Nothing, yes. So keep an ear out for those as well. I would certainly appreciate it. I've made no bones about the fact that I got spring fever. I got it bad. I want to get out and do some fishing. I want to do some open water fishing. What opens up in our state first? Well, Southern Lake Michigan for early season trolling is usually a good bet. And then there's the Detroit River. The Detroit River, one of the finest, one of the best walleye fisheries in the country, in North America, probably in the world. The thing about that Detroit River fishery, many things make it interesting and unique and quite an experience. Number one, you might well find yourself fishing right in downtown Detroit with the old Rensen in the background. How cool is that? Those are my favorite pictures when I see people holding up big Detroit River walleye with that in the background. For years, the local anglers hand-lined that river. And then jigging became the most popular tactic and technique. And both of those are still very effective, and a lot of fish are caught hand-lining and especially jigging. Now, though, there's a new tactic that's it's been around for a while, but it's starting to get legs. Trolling. Trolling like I would do for Saginaw Bay walleye. Roy Miller is, I can't say he's one of the guys who pioneered this, and Roy wouldn't claim that either, but he's one of the guys who has become very good at it, and he promotes it very well, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Roy, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Mike.
Hey, real pleasure. Listen, I know you from talking with you before, talking with you in person, and talking with you on the Offshore Tackle podcast, but for our radio listeners who don't know you, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I'm a tournament angler from right here in Michigan. I reside in the middle of the state, not close to anything good, so I got to drive everywhere I go, which is not a big deal. But I love chasing walleyes all over the state, and I tournament fish because it makes me a better angler.
How so?
It pushes you out of your comfort zone, Mike. You're forced to do stuff like trolling the Detroit River that you wouldn't normally think about doing or have time to do if you just wanted to go out and smack a quick limit or fill your freezer for the day or your live oil for the day. And it really pushes you outside of your comfort zone to really target specific fish and try to get the best 5 you can get for the day.
I think you did a show with the Romanex, Mark and Jake, last spring or maybe a couple of years ago on trolling the Detroit River. What kind of reaction did that show get?
It got a really, really good reaction. Unfortunately, Jake was busy rigging one of the boats, so he couldn't come. So it's just me and Mark. So, but it was great. We did really, really good. Took him to some key spots, and we had the show, and we were eating lunch pretty quickly. So it was a good day, according to Mark.
I realize you're forced to use different tactics, different techniques, but I'm just thinking the day you're out there, you're jigging the river. What made you put down the jigging rods and pick up the trolling rods?
Well, honestly, we were on the Canadian side, and we were jigging, and we've seen these fish that were suspended on a live sonar. They sure did look like walleyes. So we brought the jigs up and played with them for a minute, and we finally got one to eat, and sure enough, it was a walleye. So what better way to target suspended walleyes than trolling them? I think that's way better than trying to quote unquote ice fish them on a suspended 5-6 feet off the bottom in that current. So that's what we do. That's why we do it.
And when I think of trolling, I think of, my angler quest on Saginaw Bay. I got a great big spread out there covering a whole bunch of water, but there's nobody else around me. I don't have to worry about other boats. I don't have to worry about making people mad. I got to believe on the Detroit River with all that boat traffic, that is a concern.
It absolutely is a concern. You have to be very mindful, right? People aren't used to seeing what we're doing. Everyone's kind of in that same line, kind of coming down. So just like if you're trying to hand line to the pack, you have to be kind of mindful. And I try to target less popular areas. I definitely would not try this between the bridges on a Saturday morning in the middle of April. That would be a bad decision.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good. That wouldn't be good.
Old Lance would not be happy with me. So,
no, he would not.
We try to target less popular areas and just know that we are not the norm. So we try to give grace and be able to move around a little bit. 'Cause, I mean, obviously we can target different areas around the boat because we have a spread. We do try to keep that spread pretty tight to the boat, but we slide over and slide out kind of like you would with hand lining.
That's what I was going to ask you about, keeping your offshore boards, at Saginaw Bay or Lake Erie or anywhere else. You might put those boards out a ways. I got to believe they're in the river. You're running them pretty tight, pretty close.
Yeah. So two of my favorite places to fish, Alpena and the Detroit River, you fish them totally opposite. One, you send the boards as far out as you can. Another, you kind of keep them pretty close. The water is cleaning up in Detroit, but these fish are not boat shy like they would be like in Alpena.
So why, again, are you running them so far out in northern Lake Huron there because the water's so clear?
The water is crystal clear when you can see bottom in 30 foot and make out fish. They're swimming through the rocks. It's definitely a different situation up there than it is pretty much anywhere in the state.
You had a tournament last summer up there?
Yeah.
How did that go?
We were second after day one, and we fell to fifth on day two, but we still finished in the top five. So anytime you can do that with a group of anglers that we have is a very successful day.
Yeah, good for you. And as you say, that is such a different fishery than the Detroit River down there with all the people and a limited amount of water. Now, the Detroit River is a big body of water, but still it is a river. You can see across it, not like Lake Huron.
Correct. Yes, you can't see across Lake Huron at all.
What about direction of troll, upstream or downstream? Is that a factor?
It is, and it has everything to do with boat control, in my opinion. So I try to head upstream, just so I can keep the current at the bow, and I just have a little bit better control over the boat and how. And plus, everyone else is coming downstream at you. So if I'm going upstream at them, we hopefully can see each other and maybe give some grace either way. But upstream, you can get more control. You can keep your baits where they need to be. It's easier that way. You can go both ways. I just find it easier to go upstream.
And what about speed? Because speed is going to screw me up because you got current flowing down at you and you're trying to troll against it, but then you've got the relative speed, the actual speed at the bait.
Yeah, so we don't run a fish hawk because I just don't want to lose anything or a Scotty Seek or whatever your thing of choice is there. I try to do the math. I didn't pay real close attention to math class in high school.
Now you wish you would have, don't you?
I wish I would have, yeah. But you just kind of got to do the math. The current probably is about 1. You're trying to go about 1, 1, 2, 1, 4, 1, 5 upriver. But honestly, you just let the fish tell you what they want that day because it can change, and it can change hourly sometimes.
So look at your baits to get a reference. How are they running? Yeah, that looks about right. And then let the fish tell you what they want.
Yep. So we're going to tune baits anyways every time we put a board out. We tune the baits. Offshore's got the great tool for tuning baits, so it works great for that. But you can look at the bait and you can watch how it's running next to the boat. And if it looks like it's working too hard, slow it down. If If it's lagging, it's really slow, speed the boat up a little bit, and then kind of vary that throughout the day and see what the fish are gonna eat.
Roy, hang tight. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. We're talking with tournament angler and hardcore walleye fisherman Roy Miller. You can find him on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. He promises me he won't be doing any dances on the front of the boat on his TikTok feed. It's all good fishing information. When we come back, the first question I have for Roy is about this concept of tuning baits. This is something we do on the big water as well. It can't be overlooked, yet a lot of people do. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Manistee on WTIQ 95.3 FM, 1490 AM. You can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. And you can hear us in Port Huron, WPHM 1380 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by... I don't even have to say anymore, do you? Do I? You know what that is. That's the sound of my Rapid River knife locking back open. Just took it out of my pocket where it lives every day. I use it probably every day. Not always on such fun things as field dressing a deer or a bear or cleaning a fish, but sometimes just opening boxes. You know, it's nice to have a knife in your pocket. And for me, that knife is a Rapid River knife. Check out the website, rapidriverknifeworks.com. That's rapidriverknifeworks.com. Go to the showroom on US 2 just east of Rapid River, and you will see what I mean. Handmade by craftsmen in Michigan's Upper Peninsula and guaranteed for life, rapidriverknifeworks.com. So we're going from Rapid River in the UP. Now we're headed downstate to the Detroit River, the D, as they call it, and the phenomenal, world-class, wonderful, fun, productive walleye fishing on the Detroit River in the springtime. We're talking with Roy Miller, who recently has been promoting the concept of trolling for those river fish, and he's having a lot of success. Roy, before the break, you talked about tuning your baits. Now, this is not specific just to the river, but maybe with the river current, it becomes more critical. Oftentimes on the Angler Quest on Saginaw Bay, I'll tell people, hey, make sure that bait's running right. And they'll drop it at the back of the boat, and they'll pull it along at 2.5 miles an hour. They go, yep, it's fine. I walk back there and look at it. It's not fine. People think because it wobbles, it's fine. But you've got to be concerned with more than that. What is the right way to check a bait for tune?
For me, I prefer what we call a hot tune, just in case I need to speed it up. So we make sure that when I pull that rod forward and we're at trolling speed, I pull that rod straight forward as straight as I can, and I watch it and make sure it doesn't go right or left. So I'm trying to tune them close to 3.5 mile an hour.
Right. And so you're looking for that bait to run as true, as straight behind the rod tip as you can. What happens if it blows out one way or another? Do you throw that bait away, or can you adjust them?
Well, I've got a few certain brand baits that do end up in a box and go in the trash. Because sometimes they can't come back to life.
Would those be flicker shads or flicker minnows?
I didn't want to say that, Mike. But
I'll say it. Maybe. I will say it because they are such a productive bait. They catch a lot of fish, but man, are they junk.
They work really good. I spent a lot of money in customs on those things, and they do work really, really good from time to time. But yes, they can be a little tricky to keep in tune. That's a fact.
I guess there goes my potential sponsorship with those guys, huh?
yeah, Berkeley ain't calling no more, I guess.
All right, so we're talking about getting your bait tuned. Well, what baits do you run then? And is the size of the bait, is the action, is the color important or not really on those hungry fish down there?
So there's a few colors that we really try to stick to. I prefer what's called the Bill Lewis PWC and the PWC Light, and there's kind of a temperature break when I switch from the big one to the small one, and it's usually about the 45, 50 degree mark. But now either one, when you're still in that, either one can go either way. So we just kind of let the fish tell us what we want that day. And they come out of the box tuned really, really well. You normally don't have to worry too much about those. You do check them after every fish or every rock pile you run into. Color-wise, there's a couple colors, Bill Lewis actually teamed up with JT Custom Tackle, and they put the JT colors on the factory bait, so you don't have to pay for the custom. There's a few colors in there that are just phenomenal. Bug Eye is one of my favorites for Lake Erie and Detroit River. That's like my go-to bait down there.
You mentioned a rock pile. There's a lot of structure in that river, isn't there?
Oh, it's everywhere, and you really got to pay attention to your maps because it could be in the middle of the river, and you could be in a foot of water real quick. That river is dangerous, and it doesn't look that way, but you really got to pay attention to your mapping and where you are. And we're running boards off to the side, so there could be a random rock pile that's maybe unmarked, or you don't see it in the graph, and every once in a while you will smash a bill into one of those. That's a fact.
Well, what about side scan or forward-facing sonar? Would that help?
We use both. Side scan does help. I'm not going to say I'm an expert at side scan. I'm getting better every year. But we do use forward-facing sonar quite a bit, just because it kind of tells us the depth of the fish before we kind of get there. It just tells us more. It's another tool. It tells us more of the story, right? We use all of them combined to tell us the full story of really what's going on underneath us.
I feel like in that Detroit River, because the boat traffic is so heavy, and I might be completely wrong here, but I feel like maybe the fish are less boat shy than they would be in a body of water like Northern Lake Huron off from Alpena. When you're using your forward-facing sonar, Roy, do you see the fish drop then when you get to them like you would out in the big water?
To some extent, yeah. They're definitely less boat shy, but you got to remember all that boat pressure, all those jigs coming down at them, all the 2D sonar pinging off the bottom. They hear that and they feel that, and they'll slide in and out, up. They're always moving throughout the day. Like they don't just sit on one specific run and they're there all day. They're moving side to side as they're getting kind of pushed around a little bit.
So you are one of those guys who says that the fish can sense being hit by sonar, 3D, 2D, whatever.
Well, I think it's just something different, right? It's not natural to them. There's something, we all kind of feel it when, like, you can feel the pressure drop and sometimes in your own body. So pressure changes, sonars, you can feel that. I just think they feel something differently. I don't know that it truly affects them in a negative way, but I think if you were getting beat up by that all day, you'd be like, hey, it's not doing that over here. Let's slide over here. Mm-hmm. I just think that's the case. I'm no Ali Shakur. Maybe that's a good question for him, but that's just what I've seen personally fishing is they will slide around a little bit. And I don't know if it's from the jigs or the sonar bouncing off them or whatnot, but they do slide around.
So when you're trolling, and you already said earlier you're trolling upstream for the most part, are you trolling the shipping channel, the edge being the drop-off, or the flats off to the side?
You're usually looking for flats off to the side near the shipping channel because these fish, my thought is we catch a lot of post-spawn fish. So the males are stuck to the bottom. They're doing their thing. The spawning females are stuck to the bottom doing their thing. But after they spawn, these girls are up and they're headed to the lake, whichever lake, St. Clair, Erie, wherever they're heading back to, wherever home is. So they're not running right along the bottom. They're up suspended, moving through, letting the current help them get out because they're tired and they're hungry. So that's part of the reason we target the suspended ones because they're hungry and they're willing to eat.
What depth of water are we looking at then? What do you have a sweet spot you like, Roy?
15 to 20 is what I prefer, just because that's just what I've found to be the best spot. There's less trouble to get into. You start getting into that 8 foot of water, and sometimes the bottom changes pretty rapidly. And I've got a kicker with a few dings in it from something like that. So I'm a little cautious, 8 foot or less.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me that that was one of the questions I was going to ask you earlier. Bow mount electric, or does that not have enough juice? Do you need a kicker on the Detroit River?
I use both, Mike.
Really?
The bow mount's going to be my direction. I'm going to lock my kicker in tight and use that for propulsion. So the bow mount will also provide a little bit of propulsion, but mainly that's steering.
When will you start doing this? I've already heard reports of people on the river. When will you get down there, Roy?
Well, I've still got 2 more sports shows to go, so the next 3 weeks are kind of tied up for me. But as soon as the ice is out and as soon as that Grand Rapids show's over, we will be heading down. That's a fact.
What I asked you this a little bit earlier, but what do people think when they see you coming upstream? Are they curious? Do they ask you questions, or do they swear at you?
We've had both. So the best thing is when they say, "Does that actually work?" And at the same time, a board's rocking back. And I say, "Yeah, it really works." And throughout the day, if you get on a very productive run, you can watch guys start trying to troll jigs upriver because they left all their stuff at home. And I try to always make sure, no matter what I'm doing, I've got spinning rods, trolling rods. They're all in the boat all the time, just in case. But some people they go down just a jig, and if it's a slow day and those fish are up off the bottom, then if you don't have your trolling stuff with you, there's no way to target them effectively.
And I get why people love to jig for fish. I love it. To have the rod in your hand when a fish bites, there's nothing else like it.
No, it's a fun time. I absolutely love jig fishing, but I'm not going to take my 5-year-old down to the Detroit River and say, here's a spinning rod, make sure you can feel bottom. That's going to be a very expensive day for me. But I can put out some boards, and we can still go down and target those same fish. He has a good time. I have a good time. I lose way less equipment. It's financially better for me. So that's another reason, is because you can get more of the kids involved in the Detroit River fishery and just experiencing that whole situation down there. It's one of a kind.
For those guys who do try to troll jigs, does that work? Can you catch fish that way?
Yeah, I don't see why I wouldn't. I've done it a little bit on Lake St. Clair over weed beds and stuff. I've never done it in the river. I've casted jigs in the river and been successful. So I think there's multiple different ways to fish the Detroit River. And I think as anglers, sometimes we get very narrow-minded, especially Michigan anglers. But we do get narrow-minded, where all you can do is jig the river. Unless it's dirty, then you hand line. Unless it's made, then you gotta pull crawlers upstream or downstream. So we, as Michigan anglers, we just need to open our horizons a little bit and realize there is more than one way to skin a walleye in the Detroit River.
So you're saying that my reluctance to try new things and the fact that I tend to fish memories, you're saying that's because I'm a Michigan guy?
No, it has nothing to do with that, but memories are good. We are absolutely blessed with the fisheries we have in Michigan. Saginaw Bay, all the way down to Lake Erie. I mean, we are blessed. We have a different rate of catching, usually not fishing. So when you get outside of that, like in Sault Ste. Marie, you get humbled quickly as a Saginaw Bay, Lake Erie angler up there. It's hard up there, But
right.
So we have to
Gotta
be a
let
little
you go.
more.
Gotta let you go. Roy Miller, you can find him on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. He's a master. He's an expert at trolling the Detroit River in the springtime. Roy, if I don't get a seat on your boat this spring, I hope to at least talk to you and watch you in action. Steve Dye coming up. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Holland on WHTC. It's 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. You can hear us in Muskegon, WKBZ, 1090 AM, and you can hear us north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY, 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the truck trolley. Why? Why does everybody not have a truck trolley? Once I got a truck trolley, my life changed. I could throw away the old man stick that I had in the back of my truck, which was basically a broom handle with a metal hook on the end of it. I was reaching over the tailgate into the front of the bed to try to pull things back that had slid forward. I got a truck trolley in there, install it in just a few minutes. It's not permanently mounted. It's not bolted in. It's held in with cables, straps. You can pull it out to get access to your entire bed, push it back. It lets you use the entire bed, yet it's not permanent. If you need to haul gravel or stone or whatever, you just take it out. I love this thing. Michigan-based family-owned company. You know I love that. The website, trucktrolley.com. That is trucktrolley.com. I am a Michigan guy. I spent my entire career here. I was born here, raised my family here. I see no reason to leave this state. Now, yes, do we jump out of the state once in a while to do some things? Yes, but there's nowhere else I want to live. I have a commitment to, maybe this sounds strange, but I have a commitment to Michigan. I have a commitment to the outdoor lifestyle in Michigan. I want to do whatever I can to encourage this lifestyle to continue for my kids, my grandkids, and beyond. MUCC, Michigan United Conservation Clubs, has had that commitment as well. Steve Dye is the new president of MUCC. He officially was handed the gavel last weekend at their convention in Novi, and he's with me now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Steve, welcome. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks, Mike. Doing well. Doing well this morning.
Congrats on your new title. But, man, you kind of took over during interesting times, didn't you?
Yeah. Thanks for that. But, yeah, there are interesting times coming up.
Well,
some challenges ahead.
Tell me a little bit about MUCC. Now, what position are you in now, Steve? And how did the organization get to where we are?
Where we're at today, we're making some changes. The board has gone through our budget and made quite a few different cuts. We have gone now where we have hired contractors to help us out with both policy. We hired a firm out of Lansing to help represent us. Where in the past we had one person, now we've got 6 people with that company doing that. One of the big things we did, too, is we're working with a firm out of Ann Arbor for our financial reporting and status. And we've also hired a marketing firm out of Midland that does a lot of work in the outdoors to help us with that. And each one of those contractors comes in with a staff of 5 to 6 people to help us out with our next phase of MUCC. But the big thing, Mike, is that our mission's not changing. We're going to always be there. And I think I mentioned that when I was talking on Saturday, that our mission's not going to stay, or change, rather, I'm sorry. We're just going to be ourselves, be representing and being the voice for Michigan hunters and anglers and trappers and conservationists across the state. So we'll be there.
I know one of the things that had been talked about was if MUCC is to survive and flourish in the future, that you're going to have to look at the non-consumptive groups like mountain bikers and campers and even bird watchers or whatever. And I've told you, Steve, I welcome that. There is strength in numbers as long as we don't lose that core principle of standing up for the hardcore hunters and anglers and shooters and trappers. Is that a concern?
I think we will be looking for other sources. One that I would add to that somebody came up with an idea of how about different communities that rely on hunting and fishing for their businesses, is approaching those kind of chamber of commerces, something like that. But we do have to look for other sources of membership and income for MUCC.
Is there a concern, and forgive me, Steve, but I gotta ask you this because I'm hearing from people who ask me this because they know I work with MUCC. Is there a concern that the organization cannot survive?
I think we've got a lot of challenges ahead of us, and we're dedicated to working on that. You know, I mentioned the changes that the board has made to making a kind of what I would call a lean fighting machine. And I think we're going to be approaching our members and clubs about helping us out to raise funds to operate the organization. One thing that I heard during a meeting one time was, what have you done to help yourself before you go asking people for help? And that is the board has done their job by trimming the budget back, and we made some pretty significant cuts and some really, really difficult cuts. But now we have to ask our members and our clubs to help us out before we go and ask any corporation or any foundations or anyone else for help. So that's what our plan is here, and I'll be meeting soon with some folks about putting a plan together. If you go to our website right now, under the donation tab on the right, there's you can click on that and go to an area where you can make a donation to rebuild MUCC 2026.
Hang tight, Steve. Hang tight. I want to follow up on that, but I got to take a break. We're talking with Steve Dye, the new president of MUCC. Now, he's not the CEO. He's not the chief executive officer. He's the president. He's like the president of the board of directors. Got to take a break. When we come back, I will follow up with that on going to the members and the clubs, the website mucc.org. That's mucc.org. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM. You can hear us in Sandusky on WMIC 660 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux on WKNW 1400 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. Ask Avery segment this week is dealing with MUCC. A lot of people have been asking me about MUCC. They know that I have partnered very closely with MUCC. On the phone line with us now, Steve Dye, the new president of MUCC. Steve, I appreciate your time, and it's important to point out you are not the CEO, right? You're still looking for a new CEO, correct?
Correct. We're still in the process of looking for someone.
Okay. So,
and we're working with the organization to find different candidates for that.
All right. Well, good luck in that. The sooner the better, right, for everybody all the way around.
Yeah.
Let's go back to your comment before the break about going to the membership. Traditionally, when folks were members of MUCC through a club, the dues that club paid were just crazy low. You've got to do something about that, don't you?
One of the first things I want to do is get our membership committee together and come up with a new program. We changed it maybe 3-4 years ago, and we need one of the things that we did in the past that we didn't update our dues system, our program structure, whatever you like to call it, and we need to update that periodically. So I want that committee to come up with a new procedure, and I'd like that by June so that we can send it out to our clubs and individual members coming up in October. Dues for the club membership is due in October 1st, so we need to get that all in place before then. So, and memberships and donations, they all help us do our job, our advocacy work and our habitat work and educational programs, like summer camp. So it's all very important. We count on people to support us.
Well, and one thing I've seen is that if you make the ask, people will respond. So now you've got to make the ask.
Right. One of the things at the convention is past President Rob Miller made the ask of the attendees there, and we passed the hat and other commitments from people in the room, and we raised $39,000 just in a short time at the convention. I mean, a very short time, within maybe 15 to 20 minutes. So we know the support is out there, and now it's time to make the ask. And I'll be meeting with our marketing firm here either this week, end of this week, or the first of next week to develop a program to make that ask of members. And the general public, too. Anybody that's interested in the outdoors in Michigan should belong to MUCC. We protect the rights and the things that we like to do, the traditions of Michigan outdoors men and women, and it all comes with a cost. Without finances, you can't do those things.
And this is not just something that MUCC is facing. I know that conservation groups across the country are facing this. Heck, I see it in my own world. I see it in church groups and civics groups and volunteer groups. It's just, people don't join like they used to. The members tend to be older. It's a real problem facing a lot of groups today. But from my perspective, Steve, I look at this outdoor lifestyle, And I am too passionate about it. I care too much. I care too deeply about it to just sit back and do nothing.
Yeah. I've been in the outdoors all my life, whether it was in scouting or with the Metro Parks where I worked or with Ducks Unlimited. So I'm deeply committed to it also. And it's my lifestyle, whether it's with my kids going hunting or my grandkids, getting them into it also, or fishing. And we dabble a little bit in trapping too. So that's a commitment that we have. And everybody that I know with MUCC is committed to it. I mean, that's their way of life, one fashion or another in the outdoors. So we're all committed to making MUCC the best it can be. One of the things that we learned at the convention was Mark Smith from National Wildlife Federation was there. And he talked about other organizations similar to ours, like in North Carolina, Georgia, Ohio, Wisconsin, have all had issues like we have right now. And they've all kind of stepped back and looked at their organization and reorganized it. And they're all back up and running in great shape right now. So that's what we intend to do. I have a committee right now that's getting together to talk about what the MUCC might look like in another year. So looking forward to it, really. And I'm pretty optimistic about things with MUCC. I think there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes that we can't talk about right today, but they're coming. And I'm really optimistic about the future of MUCC. And I want it to be here, and I want to be a part of it for the next, I won't be here for 100 years, but for the next 100 years, we need to be here.
Well, Steve, as I told you, I will continue to support MUCC because what choice do we have? We can't just sit back and let it go. So I stand with you guys. I will do everything I can to help out the cause. I would encourage you to keep an eye, on the main goal, and we'll see what this organization looks like in the future. Appreciate your time. Steve Dye of MUCC, the website, mucc.org. That's mucc.org. We will have a golf outing Friday, July 31st at the West Branch Country Club to benefit MUCC's youth camp. And don't be surprised if there's another outing that shows up on the west side of the state as well. We'll take a break. When we come back, Richard P. Smith in hour number 3.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction. I've had people say, I want to meet Ken Hunter. I haven't seen Ken Hunter in years. It's been a long time. We do all of our communication electronically. I email him. I say, hey, Ken, I need this. He emails it back to me, and we're good to go. So if you see Ken Hunter, say hi to him. My name is Mike Avery. This is hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. So glad to have you along with us as I admit to having a bad case of spring fever down here where I live, below the bridge. I'm a troll. I live in central Michigan, mid-Michigan. It's kind of been up and down, and boy, this recently I felt like spring is definitely just around the corner. Now this morning, wake up, got a little bit of snow. It's cold. It looks like winter again, but I have hope. Unlike my friends in the Yup, I talked to Johnny Bowler, the Bear Whisperer, and he I tell you, that guy sits in a plow truck all day long, and he stares at snow. And he thinks he gets something accomplished, and he goes home, and it snows overnight, and he has to come back the next day and do it all again. Speaking of the Yup, my friend Richard P. Smith is an icon in the Upper Peninsula, longtime outdoor writer. I consider him to be a black bear and a whitetail deer hunting expert, and he's with us on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Richard, welcome back. How have you been?
Okay, how about you?
Good. When you look out the window there, do you see any signs of spring at all in Marquette?
Not at all, Mike. It's been many, many years since I've seen this much snow in Marquette. My driveway, when the snow banks are so high on both sides of my driveway, I have to creep out of the driveway onto the road to make sure I see if any vehicles are coming and nobody hits me. The banks are high enough that I can't see when I'm at the end of the driveway.
So it's going to be a while before you can think about springtime. What about wildlife in the UP? Is it too, specifically deer, is it too early to say what effect this winter is having on UP whitetails?
It is a little early, but based on the quantity of snow we have and how long it's going to take to melt, the potential is there for serious losses of deer. But there have been the deep snow and stormy weather this winter has provided some benefits to deer. We've had a lot of strong winds that have blown down trees in winter deer yards, and those fallen trees provide browse, valuable browse for those deer. And right now, hemlock limbs, which is a preferred winter food for deer, are weighed down with so much snow and ice that they're down at a low enough level that deer can feed on those hemlock limbs, where otherwise they would be out of reach of deer because they're weighed down by snow and ice. So there have been some benefits for deer from this deep snow, but there's so much of it that they're vulnerable to predators with this much snow on the ground as well. And if we don't have a decent breakup, we could lose a lot of deer.
I think about your UP deer herd, and I feel like, man, they just can't take much more. I feel like the UP deer herd numbers are down. It's just, it's not like it used to be, is it?
No, it's not. One thing that I've been doing, Mike, and other people can do that if they have access to deer yards, is these trees that have been blown down by strong winds, deer can only reach browse so high. There's often many limbs out of their reach. What I've been doing in the deer yard near Marquette is I've been going to these windblown trees and using a handsaw and sawing the limbs down they can't reach the browse on. And that makes more browse available to the deer. As long as they have access to food, they'll make it just fine, unless they're killed by predators. But providing supplemental food, the natural browse they're used to. And there's a number of sportsmen's clubs that are feeding deer during the winter, like the Calumet Keweenaw Sportsmen's Club is a prime example. They can always use donations, monetary donations, to buy deer food during the winter, especially a winter like this one, to help feed the deer.
You talk about deer yards, deer browse, cedar swamps. That's a concern too, right? Because the deer yards, you don't have the areas of those thick cedar swamps that we did a few years ago either.
Yeah, the quality of the wintering deer complexes has gone down dramatically because we've tried to carry too many deer in the past when we've had other severe winters, and we've lost a lot of deer, but those deer have destroyed the winter food supply, the winter habitat before they died. And so the quality of our wintering complexes is down because of that.
You talk about feeding deer, supplemental feeding. Of course, that's still legal in the UP. You know, well, I know you know this, Richard, but there's a movement downstate to get baiting for elk and especially whitetails coming back. It's coming from the legislature. It's not coming from the DNR or the NRC. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it should never, baiting for deer should never have been banned in the Lower Peninsula. The research that wildlife biologists have been relying on to ban baiting and feeding are not applicable to what happens in the wild. There was research done at the disease lab in Ames, Iowa, to see how long TB bacteria survives on deer bait. But that research was done in a dark laboratory where temperatures were carefully controlled. In fact, conditions favored survival of the bacteria. And they found that under ideal conditions, that bacteria can live for up to 100 days. But one thing that has been ignored is exposure to sunlight kills bacteria, TB bacteria. And that's why it was done in the dark. It's just not applicable. That research is not applicable to what happens in the wild in Michigan. And besides that, they used extremely high doses of TB bacteria to put on deer food. It just bogus information is being used to ban baiting and feeding in the Lower Peninsula.
To what end? What's the thinking there? Why?
Well, they're taking this research findings at how long the bacteria survived on food in controlled conditions and saying it applies to the wild when it doesn't. They're ignoring the fact that sunlight kills the TB bacteria, and they do not survive very well in the wild. In fact, based on research done by the DNR, they have not been able to culture TB bacteria from soil, water, or food at actual feeding sites in Michigan, including an enclosure where the prevalence rate of TB was like 15%. That alone should tell them something, that baiting is not responsible for spreading TB. And in fact, the prevalence rate of TB in Deer Management Unit 452 in the Northeast and Lower has remained fairly constant. It's gone up and down a little bit, but it's been fairly constant since baiting was banned.
And that's been a while now.
It's been since 2002.
2002.
Many years. The data does not confirm that baiting is responsible for spreading disease.
If you look at it from a different perspective and allowed downstate hunters to use bait, now I realize not everybody's a fan of bait. I'd like to see it come back. I would see more deer and probably harvest another deer or two every season. If hunters were allowed to use bait and thin out the herd, couldn't it be looked at that would offset, or even more so, be more positive, more beneficial to the deer herd, and having too many deer on the scene? Isn't that as hurtful in some ways as having CWD? And wouldn't it even maybe knock down the rate of CWD if you've got fewer deer?
It would. It would be beneficial to increase hunter success and hunter harvest by removing more diseased deer from the population. It would be beneficial big time in that respect. In fact, the DNR did a study in the Northeast Lower Peninsula in 2001 when they allowed 1 gallon of bait for hunters to see how effective that was. Bow hunters had a much higher rate of success who used bait versus those who didn't, and there was still a significant difference in success rates among gun hunters who used bait versus those who didn't as well. Lowering the density of deer, increasing hunter success, would better control disease in the deer population than is currently happening.
Hang tight, Richard. We got to take a break. We're talking to Richard P. Smith. His website, richardpsmith.com. That's richardpsmith.com. Richard, a well-known outdoor writer, and again, in my opinion, a whitetail hunting expert, a black bear hunting expert. I have learned much about bear hunting from Richard P. Smith. He's also an author, and after the break, I want to talk to him about a new edition of his Great Michigan Deer Tales. I love these books, including, and this one got my attention, the Rompola buck. But we got a lot to talk about with Richard. Again, his website, richardpsmith.com, richardpsmith.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. You can hear us in Tawas on WIOS. That's 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Escanaba on WCHT, 600 AM, 93.5 FM. Talking now with a guy who lives in the Yup. He lives in the Marquette area. His name is Richard P. Smith, noted outdoor writer, hunting expert, and the most recent, Michigan Outdoor Hall of Fame inductee. How cool is that? I think for somebody who spent their entire career in the outdoor media, that is the pinnacle of recognition. So, Richard, I know we've talked about this before, but congrats once again on that. The website, richardpsmith.com, richardpsmith.com. Richard, you've been doing this forever, but you're still a busy guy. I feel like you're not even slowing down yet.
I'm trying not to.
You slow down and you get rusty, don't you?
Yeah. In fact, I came down with COVID 2 years ago and spent a month and a half in the hospital.
Oh, geez.
I've been trying to catch up on the time I lost when I was in the hospital.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I apologize. But speaking of catching up, you've got a new version of your very popular book out.
Yeah, book 9 of Great Michigan Deer Tales. It is not actually published yet. The cover for the book is done, and I'm finishing details on the interior, the text of the book. It will be out later this year, but I am offering a pre-publication offer on my website for people who know they're going to want the book, and they can save a few dollars by ordering it now.
Go to richardpsmith.com, richardpsmith.com. I'm looking at the cover of the book. I'm looking at the back cover of the book. Here's what really gets my attention. More proof the Rampolla buck is real.
Exactly.
Can you let a little bit of the cat out of the bag?
Well, a guy who manufactured the bow that Mitch killed that huge typical buck with in 1998, his name is Chuck Neese. He made the bow Mitch killed the deer with, and after Mitch killed the deer with that bow, Chuck spent 3 days with Mitch talking to people who had seen the buck alive besides Mitch, the one he killed, and he saw the antlers from the buck, examined them, confirmed they were real, and there's no doubt in his mind, after spending 3 days with Mitch and seeing the antlers and talking to other people, that it's a legitimate deer. That's something that wasn't covered in previous chapters of Great Michigan Deer Tales, books 1 and 3 and 4, that discussed his buck from 98. This information from Chuck Neese is brand new. There's also information in this new chapter in book 9 about how Mitch probably benefited financially, big time, from that deer. A lot of people suspected he missed the boat by not taking the deer to shows and all that. But he profited another way from that deer financially.
I'm actually glad to hear that. I really am. I don't begrudge him that at all. So Chuck Neese, why was Chuck sitting on this information for all these years? Did you happen to pry this out of him? Why didn't we hear this earlier, Richard?
Well, yeah, he did sit on it for a while. There was a Facebook page that was started a number of years ago, not too many years ago, called Mitch Rampolla Facts or Buck Facts.
I remember that, yeah.
Mitch. And Chuck emailed into that website to provide this information in the last few years. And in fact, he wrote an article for another magazine about the time he spent with Mitch as well.
Well, I will look forward to that. I love the Great Michigan Deer Tales because I don't think anybody looks at deer hunting in Michigan. I think you look at it from a very unique perspective. You look at it as an outdoor writer. You look at it as a hardcore hunter. You look at it as a Yooper. I mean, your take on Michigan deer hunting, I think, is pretty unique and very valid, Richard.
Well, thank you. And even though the emphasis of all 9 books in the Great Michigan Deer Tales series is on some of the biggest bucks taken by hunters in Michigan, that isn't the total focus. There's a number of chapters in this new book about hunters who've been hunting for many years and not taking a record buck, but they've had some interesting, unique experiences that make them great deals to pass on.
When do you expect this will come out, Richard?
Oh, I'm shooting for May.
Okay.
But it depends on printing schedules and all that I don't have any control over. So.
No, I get it. I feel like, obviously I'm not in the print world at all, but I feel like looking at it from the outside that there are some parallels in that in the broadcast world now, it's easier than ever for me to get things done because of technology. Has that helped you out at all? I mean, can you as an independent author, can you print your own books these days without help from the outside?
No, I still have to go to a printing plant to print the books. And I rely on Stacy Willie at Globe Printing in Ishpeming to do the layout for the books. I don't have the software to do the layout, although I could, but that would be an added expense. And she is so good, so experienced at laying out books, I rely on Stacy to do the layout. And then I go to a printer in downstate to print the books.
It's nice to have great partners who you trust to have some experience with and do a good job for you, isn't it?
Exactly.
Richard, when you look at the deer hunting scene in Michigan, I mean, you could pick this thing apart. There are so many different perspectives. Overall, where are we today from your observation point?
We're not actually that bad, except the Upper Peninsula is worse than the Lower Peninsula. In view of the fact that so many hunters have lost sight of the purpose of deer hunting to manage the deer population. With our severe winters here in the Upper Peninsula, it's more important than ever that hunters be permitted to harvest as many deer as possible within reason prior to severe winters like this one to reduce the winter losses and reduce damage to our winter deer habitat. Both buck tags on combination deer license in the UP are restricted, and I've harped on this in the past. There's no need for that. One buck tag should be unrestricted like it was before 2008. We should be allowed to use crossbows during December to harvest deer before severe winters to increase the chances of those remaining deer surviving. Too many hunters have lost sight of that. In the Lower Peninsula, the fact that we have antler point restrictions in chronic wasting disease management zones and no deer baiting in the Lower Peninsula, it's just sad. The disease, chronic wasting disease, could be far better controlled today if baiting had not been banned in the Lower Peninsula.
Do you blame the DNR for these decisions or the NRC or a combination of?
Well, yeah, a combination thereof. They're looking at research that was done under controlled conditions, claiming it applies to the wild when it really doesn't. But so many biologists don't have the on-the-ground experience like I have. I've been walking with whitetails and observing their social interactions for more than 20 years. Most wildlife biologists don't have that experience. They don't see the social interactions that deer have, whether or not baiting is legal. The fact that they think banning baiting is going to slow the spread of disease is off base.
I feel like the DNR is going to get that force down its throat this year, though, through the legislature. I think baiting is coming back in the Lower Peninsula.
Well, I hope so, and it's overdue. It should have been done sooner.
Should Michigan be a one-buck state?
No. There's not a significant number of hunters who shoot 2 bucks legally every year to make a population effect on the deer herd. The many thousands of recreational hours that second buck tag provides without hunters filling that second tag is extremely valuable. In going to a 1 buck bag limit is not going to benefit the deer herd management significantly.
Let's turn our attention to another topic we both love. You kind of got me hooked on this, bear hunting. How is our bear hunting in Michigan? How is our bear management? How are bear numbers?
Bear numbers are very high, especially in the Upper Peninsula. We need more bear licenses to better manage the bear population because bears have a significant impact on fawn survival and recruitment. In Drummond Island is a perfect example. Bear numbers declined by 2008 because of the harvest of too many female bears. So they went to a one bear permit for Drummond Island for many years to allow that bear population to increase, which it has. Now it's recovered to the point that it's having a negative impact on the deer population at Drummond Island. There's an annual UP deer camp survey conducted by the DNR. The number of fawns per 100 does reported by hunters on Drummond Island is half of what it is on the mainland due to the high bear population on that island. There's like 20-some fawns per 100 does on Drummond versus 40 plus fawns per 100 does on the mainland, where bear numbers are lower.
Well, you are the first person that kind of made me aware of bear predation on whitetails, but that's just one of many topics that I've learned so much from you over the years, Richard. I think you and I could sit down and talk for 3 hours. We don't have time this week, but let's get you back on soon. Let's talk about, well, one topic we could go to, Moose Lift. You were there for Moose Lift 1 and 2, so was I. They got recent moose research, so you keep up the good work. Let's schedule something coming up for you in a few weeks, and you and I will talk again soon.
Sounds good, Mike.
All right. Richard P. Smith, his website is, appropriately enough, richardpsmith.com. That's richardpsmith.com. That is where you can pre-order book number 9 of Great Michigan Deer Tales, including More Proof the Rompola Buck is Real. I've been saying this for years as well, but not everybody believes it. But when it comes from Richard, with the sources that he has, you've got to give it some credibility. richardpsmith.com, richardpsmith.com. We'll get him back on, too, as we get closer to the time to apply for your Michigan Bear Tag. We'll take a break. More coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Traverse City, WTCM 580 AM. You can hear us in the UP, where Richard P. Smith lives, in Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. You also hear us over in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. I must have got a little behind here. You can hear us in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM, and you can hear us in Saginaw on WSGW AM and FM. That's 790 AM, 100.5 FM. Oh, forgot Manistee, WMLQ 97.7. I think I just did that. I'm here in Saginaw in the studios of WSGW, as I am every week. I'm here to record the Outdoor Magazine show here with Charlie Rude. Charlie. No, we're not hearing that today. The weather's kind of cruddy, and there are no families out there. It's going to turn. Charlie, an icon here in this part of the state for broadcasting on WSGW AM and FM and WSGW.com. I would encourage you to listen to our broadcast stations. Check out their websites. You don't have to live in, I'll use one station as an example. You don't have to live in Traverse City to listen to WTCM. You can listen to them online anywhere in the world. That's the case with all of my affiliates, and I would encourage you to check them out. Oh, things coming up. In fact, Charlie Rude of WSGW, along with his cohort, Art Lewis, will be at our big Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner and Auction. That's coming up, as you're hearing the radio show, next Saturday. Oh, I'm starting to get nervous now. Next Saturday at the Great Hall in Midland. Doors open at 4:30. Dinner starts at 6, live auction at 7. If you would like tickets, I think we've still got a few left. Probably the best way to get those tickets at this point, send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I will respond with the website, the QR code, and the phone number where you can just call and get those tickets. Speaking of making a phone call, March 1st, which is Sunday, reservations open up for our next Wednesday night live at the Lumberjack Restaurant in West Branch, the Forward Corporation Lumberjack Restaurant. That is April 15th. Call for reservations, 989-343-0892, 989-343-0892. There's no cost for those reservations, but I'm not buying your dinner. You got to buy your own dinner. And since that is April 15th, which is tax day, I might be broke. So maybe I might ask you to buy my dinner that night. You never know. April 15th at the Lumberjack Restaurant in West Branch, 989-343-0892. Okay, what else is on my list here? Spring, at least downstate, is kind of playing cat and mouse with us. We don't know if it's here or just around the corner or if it's weeks away yet. Talking with Richard P. Smith in Marquette, he says, don't even talk about spring. He said it's way too early to talk about spring. Talking to my buddy Johnny Bowler over in Seney, who has spent the entire winter on a plow truck. He says, I don't even want to talk about spring. I got to get through winter here first. But Johnny is taking a break. He's coming downstate. He's going to visit us trolls at the Trinity Monitor dinner. In fact, he's giving away a bear hunt for the live auction. He's giving away a deer hunt for the silent auction. We've got African safaris. We've got Detroit River walleye trips. We've got Lake Michigan salmon trips. We've got a walleye fishing trip with me on Saginaw Bay. We've got a whitetail hunt in Illinois. Michigan brand meat products for a year. A quarter of a beef. We've got a predator hunt with Matt Schock. I mean, we have so many wonderful, and guns. Again, I'm going back to the Trinity event because it's right in my. It's looking at me right now. It's been slowly building, and it's been in the background, and it's coming to the forefront. Now it's right in front of me. There it is. Not just me. Everybody on the committee who just does, I got to tell you, just a wonderful job. This is our 9th annual. Really looking forward to it. If you want tickets, send me an email, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and I will get you in touch with the powers that be. Ice fishing season still going on down here. I did not get on the ice yet, and you know what? Realistically, I will not be on the ice this year. That's okay. It's not a big deal for me. I know many of you love ice fishing. I respect that. I respect any outdoor activity that gets you excited and gets you outdoors. I'm all for it. I don't have to participate or be passionate in all of them. In fact, in Michigan, that would be kind of hard, wouldn't it? My loves, bear hunting. I absolutely love to bear hunt. Turkey hunting. Can't get enough of turkey hunting. If you haven't tried turkey hunting, I would encourage you to do it this spring. The first time you sit out in the woods and you make a call and a gobbler responds, you are going to be absolutely hooked. You might not see that bird, you might not take that bird, but the fact that you're interacting with wildlife, to me, that is the absolute coolest thing about turkey hunting. And it's coming up. It's not that far away. I turkey hunt a lot like I deer hunt in that I don't run and gun. I will be hunting. I'll be hunting with my crossbow again this spring. I set up in a ground blind. I put a decoy or two in front of me, and I'll call a couple times just to let the birds know I'm there. And then I'll sit there and I'll shut up, and I'll wait, and I'll wait. Maybe a little while later, I'll call again. If I hear a hen calling off in the distance, I will call to her. If I hear a gobbler sounding off in the distance, I'll talk to him, but not too much. So I'm getting excited about that. I'm getting excited about springtime trolling season. Don't get ahead of yourself yet, Avery. There's still a lot of winter left. Okay, I know that. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. He's got a springtime stream trout recipe, and I have video of that recipe. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. So glad to have you along with us. If you are a new listener, thank you so very much. If you are a long-time listener, I also appreciate you very much. And if you've been with us before, you know that we wrap up each week's show with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. If you know Dixie Dave, and a lot of people do, a lot of people know Dave from his years in the kitchen at the Oscar and Joey's and the old Dixie Inn and now the King's Dish up in Standish. If you've talked to Dave before, you know just what a sweetheart of a guy he is. He's just the nicest guy in the world. But man, you get him in a kitchen, and this guy takes control. He is an absolute master with fish and wild game, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to wrap up this week's show, as he almost always is. David, welcome back. How are you, buddy?
Hey, thanks for the kind words, Michael.
You know
I'm
what,
fine.
Dave? You are an easy guy to say nice things about because you are a genuinely good guy.
Well, geez, thanks a lot. So much. So yourself is too.
I made you speechless, didn't I? Now, Dave, on this week's recipe, you told me it's on page 42, and I'm going to set the stage here a little bit. I'll let you say what it is, but the story is here. I think I have this one on video. I have my laptop in front of me with a Dixie Dave video folder. I don't see it in there, but I am quite sure I have seen this on my master archive drive. I think I have access to it, and I plan to post it this weekend. But tell us, Dave, what is this recipe?
It's a stream-sized trout, rainbow trout with mushroom and basil stuffing. We'll be fishing streams pretty soon here, so I figured I'd get this one out of the way while the getting was good.
Yeah, and I'm in my mind, I can see this. I am quite sure I have seen this recently, and I'm quite confident I have it. So let's hear it.
I remember doing it for the show.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this is for 4 portions. You're going to need a minimum of 4 trout, depending on the size. Say you got some nice 11, 12 inches, and you're going to dress it and bone it from the inside out. We've talked about this before. You take a nice sharp knife and hold the fish with the opening side towards you, and then run a real sharp, thin-bladed knife on both sides of the ribs, and then you can work the bones right out, so you get a boneless package of meat.
If you use a rapid river knife, it works out even better.
It does, doesn't it?
I had to work that in. Go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry.
All right. You need about 2 to 3 cups of soft cube bread, diced small, a cup of fresh mushrooms. Morels would be best for this dish. I'm telling you what. You got some in the freezer or dried at this time of the year before you can get out there and get some. I would recommend that, but you can use regular button mushrooms too. Juice a quarter cup of scallops or scallions sliced thin, 2 beaten up eggs, a half a cup of groper's fine, 3 anywhere from 2 to 4 cloves of garlic diced up real fine, a couple teaspoons of parsley chopped, and get them ready for to add into this mixture. Milk to moisten the stuffing because the stuffing is going to be kind of dry. 8 to 10 fresh basil or a half a teaspoon of dried olive oil, flour to dredge, and if you use salt and pepper, by all means do that. So the method we're going to be doing is in a small amount of olive oil, lightly saute the green pepper and the garlic, and then add the mushrooms and the scallions and the basil and cook it for a few minutes just to break the flavor loose. You don't want to have too hot of a fire. And then put everything in a bowl, add the mixture to the breadcrumbs, squeeze in the lime juice, and then the beaten eggs. Mix it very well. And then if it's a little dry, you want to moisten it with milk. And then if you use salt and pepper, by all means, now would be the time. Taste it, microwave a little bit, and make sure it's to your flavor profile. And then pack the stuffing lightly into the boned out fish. Dredge the fish lightly in flour and place the trout in a fry pan with a small amount of oil on both sides. It's a nice warm pan. It doesn't have to be hot because you don't want to burn this. reduce the heat and cover. And if you wanted to, you could leave this on top of the stove, and then when the stuffing is nice and hot and the fish is done, you want to get it up to about 180 degrees because you have eggs in it. If you're browning the fish, if you wanted to, you could place it in an oven-proof dish and bake it for 10 to 12 minutes at 350 degrees, or again, 180 degrees. So, and then there's a sauce that you could make real simple. A cup of dry white wine, a quarter stick of butter, a teaspoon of chopped parsley, and juice of a lime. Remove the large bits of stuffing from the pan. And, get rid of that, and then add the wine and stir the bottom of the pan to lift up the glaze. It's called deglazing the pan, and then cook it for 2 or 3 minutes to get the alcohol flavor. Add the butter, the lime juice, reduce the volume over high heat, thick and creamy, and pour this on the plate.
Dave, you're breaking. You're breaking up. You're breaking up real bad. I got to let you go anyway, next week, let's see if we can't find something to try to address that, because you're breaking up to the point where it's hard to follow you. I'm willing to stick around and try to make sense of it. But if we can get a better signal, better connection the next week, that would be great. Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show. My name's Mike Avery. I'll talk to you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.